Weather was awful. Top, how are you?
Good, Coach. How are you?
Doing good. Obviously, this has been a great week for us from the standpoint of having an off week, having 7 days in between the games has really allowed us to do a lot of things. One, hit the reset button and say to ourselves, okay, what, considering that it's late January, can we control this week to help us get a little bit better and actually focus more on ourselves rather than an opponent? Because during the season up to this point, it's been 2 or 3 days game, 2 or 3 days game. So I think it's given us a chance as a staff and as a team to really kind of take a deep breath, lock in on a couple things like we did on Tuesday. Monday we locked on it with film, not so much physically, but film and physical Tuesday. At the same time, also, secondly, get some days off. We took Sunday off completely. Monday we just lifted and watched film, and then we were off completely yesterday. So that part's been good from a physical and mental refreshment standpoint as well. And then third, obviously trying to get some guys healthy. So I thought that, I think so far, obviously we're just on Thursday and we've got to practice today and tomorrow, but I think this week's coming we've been blessed, it's coming a good time for us. Obviously now we kind of shift here today and tomorrow into a lot of preparation with Penn State. Certainly we've had them in mind as a staff, but I wanted our players really focused on us, on getting better on Monday and Tuesday. So today we'll shift into that. Obviously they're on a 2-game winning streak, have played very well. I saw some of the tape from last night. I was out last night, so I've watched some of their game last night a little bit here this morning, some clips, and obviously they played very well. Newble made some plays for him, but didn't necessarily have a Newble-type night. And some other guys really stepped up with Brandon Taylor being out as well. And I thought it was a really competitive game from what I've seen and hard fought and a great win for them. So they come in here with a lot of momentum. We've got to understand that I think the next step for us is learning how to compete consistently. We've been inconsistent with that, with our toughness, especially on the defensive end and with our rebounding. That's been disappointing at times. And then exciting at other times. If you look at like the last 28 minutes of the Purdue game last week, I thought we were tremendous, but I didn't think we had that same competitive toughness and nastiness that we needed in Minneapolis this past weekend. So we've got to find a way to have that more consistently. The players' mindsets have got to be better with that. They've got to concentrate better. They've got to be mentally and physically tougher. And as a staff, we've got to assist them and help them in making progress in those areas, because I think ultimately your ability to concentrate and your ability to willingness to be physically and mentally tough, it is a choice. And then as a staff, we got to help make sure their bodies and minds are ready for that type of grind, to bring it like that every night with some guys playing some very, very heavy minutes right now. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm excited to get to practice this afternoon and start preparation for this one on Saturday. Questions?
There was one mental mistake against Purdue last week where Malcolm was supposed to begin a set at the top of the key and he was in the low post instead. So I wondered, how often does it happen that a guy who's playing more than one position has been kind of confused?
Obviously, it's more likely, Rob, when you're playing more than one position. Is this the first time in my 7 years that we've taught guys other positions in midstream in January? Yeah. Is what it is. Got to do what you got to do. That's rare. So as much as, I'm certainly holding those guys accountable and we're on them, maybe they don't have quite as many reps doing certain things or being asked to do things that maybe weren't a part of the original preseason preparation for our team. And although as a coach, your responsibility is to have contingency plans, it's hard to have this type of contingency plan. So, we're altering and adjusting and adapting and trying to find a way to, make sure we're competitive night in, night out. But, I don't remember that particular play. Malcolm does not bust very many plays. He doesn't. Sometimes I'd like for him to move a little quicker into things. But he doesn't bust very many plays. That's pretty rare.
With the competitiveness and the toughness and all that, you feel like you've had to beat that drum a little bit more this season than
without question. Yeah, it's disappointing. Yeah, without question. Because last year at this time, obviously we started to surge a little bit. And, when I have a chance to, every time we play an opponent, I watch the previous time we played them, obviously. And when I watch that film from last year, in particular, the last 15 games, I mean, the effort was ridiculous. And it was consistently ridiculous. And we've got to get that to where we have that on a more consistent basis.
Is that more coach-driven or player, with internally player-driven?
Both. No one points fingers in our deal. I mean, we all look inward, and that's on me, it's on the captains, it's on the players. There's no need to, point fingers. We got to figure it out together, and we got to get it done.
John, you talked about your team's margin for error being small, but it seems like the margin in the Big Ten from 1 to 14 is so ridiculously small. Can you kind of talk about the balance of the conference this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's really balanced. You look at it, and I don't know what, because I didn't have to think about the games and how they finished last night in the standings, but how many teams are there, DB, between 2 and 4 wins right now? It's well over half, isn't it? I don't want to be inaccurate, but close. I think that's pretty rare. Certainly almost at the halfway point of an 18-game schedule. And, you just watch the games this past week, or I see them, I'll get it home, and I'll see the final plays of the game or the highlights, and I'm like, wow, that one could have went either way. I mean, I think there's a lot of those, Jim.
John, where are you in terms of getting Aaron back?
Good. He has been in non-contact situations. We're getting ready to graduate him into some contact situations, hopefully today and tomorrow. His doctor's appointment went very well. He may have a new fashionable line of goggles or glasses on when you see him next, but we're very, very encouraged, medically about, how that thing is, how the surgery went, how the eye looks now, and, we're headed in the right direction there with him, so we're excited about that.
Any chance he could play tomorrow?
Sure, there's a chance. Yeah, how many minutes, I don't know. I mean, he hasn't had contact yet. That starts today. He'll get thrown in there a little bit, and when you have the injury that he had, Tup, it's not like, hey, well, let's keep him on some cardio while he's out. He couldn't do anything at all. Lift, run, jog, he let go, nothing. So, the other day he did non-contact on Tuesday, and he looked pretty good moving around, but, we'll see what happens here as we move forward. I'm going to be very open-minded with both of those guys. I think sometimes the thing that people don't understand is when you say, hey, guy's back. Well, I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that. Like, you remember him like the last time you saw him and what that looked like. Well, you can't be out for games and weeks and, in Kaz's case, not doing anything at all and then just be like, voila, magic wand, he's back. It doesn't work that way. So I think we have to be very adaptive and, figure out what's best for Kaz, what's best for our team, what's best for Ray, what's best for our team, and kind of move those guys along. Rather than maybe just throwing them into the fire and letting them burn.
Yeah. And where are you on Ray now, John?
Same deal. Doctor's appointment went very well today. Progress has been very good. We're ahead of schedule. Both guys are ahead of schedule. So Schmitty and the doctors certainly deserve a lot of credit for that. Same thing with him. Cleared for skill, cleared for non-contact, and we're going to start moving him into some contact as well. How many minutes does that mean? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'll know a lot more after today, then I'll know a lot more after Friday, and so forth as we move forward. But I'm very encouraged that the timeline on both of them has put them into a position where we can be a little bit more aggressive with them here this week, towards the end of this week.
Is there any chance we'd see Ray tomorrow?
Sure. You mean Saturday? Yeah,
Saturday.
sure. Yeah, I'm open-minded to that as well, based on what the doctors are telling us. But again, I've got to see him in practice. I've got to see him in contact situations and what that looks like, and obviously we're going to bring both of them along. I shouldn't say slowly, but if that's necessary, we will. Whatever it takes, we want to be aggressive, but we also want to be patient. We want to do the right thing for them and do the right thing for our team.
You've seen Ray shoot the ball. Is he comfortable with the ball in his hands?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, considering where he's at right now.
Will he wear some?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Stuff,
Yeah, we'll have goggles and we'll have different kinds of apparatuses. Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah. Yep.
Has Jalen Tate exceeded the ceiling that you might have thought when you first recruited him?
It's a great question. Rob, I'm so excited about how that kid's playing right now. Now, defensively, got to get him in better position. than what he is right now. He's got to be able to concentrate a little bit more and do a little bit better there. And he knows that. But in terms of handling the basketball, making guys better, Nana's used the word command. I think he has great command of our team. He has a great voice. He has great body language. He's more competitive. I think he's physically stronger than he was last year. He has improved a great deal. And that's pretty exciting, and I still think he can get even better.
Jim, he's been more a threat to score. I mean, he's not a jump shooter yet, but how has he progressed in that?
He plays to his strengths. He does a good job of understanding what we want, and you're right, he has been more aggressive. But if you think about it, those same plays where he's getting in the paint this year versus last year, you know, he'd be the first to tell you, I think last year if a guy put an arm bar on him or nudged him, he traveled. You know, now he can not only absorb that, he can deliver a blow on contact, still be on balance, still pivot, still make a good decision. I think a lot of that, Jeremy, is just strength and experience too, but I think strength, you know, is a big part of it.
The fact that you have lost, you know, Cosby and Ray for the length of time that you did, some of these other guys have stepped up. What happens, you know, I mean, are they capable of all of them putting it together during a single game?
We'll see.
We'll
see.
What is the dynamic when you get a Ray back and
Yeah, it's
they
different.
have to gel together again?
Anytime you add, and I really believe this, you add or delete one player from a rotation, it changes the team. You know, obviously we've had to do that on probably more occasions than we would have preferred. If you date back to last spring when we put the team together, I mean, it's been in flux a little bit. Some of it, or I should say most of it, out of our control. So we just got to kind of figure it out. But I think it's a question, you know, that he asked there as well, and I certainly didn't mean it sarcastically. I meant it sincerely. Like, we'll see. You know, I don't know the answer to that yet. It hasn't happened yet. You know, you know, it's obviously something that we're going to have to deal with. It's part of the deal. You know, when you have guys come back and, you know, rotations change, and that's just kind of part of it. We got to figure it out.
I think the trend in your previous 6 seasons, as the season goes forward, as your teams get better, you have a feeling one way or the other where that's going right now as your team is continuing to progress.
Yeah, Marcus, I'm not sure yet. I don't know if I can honestly look you in the eyes and tell you that I like the momentum just because of what I said at the outset. Because we have to be more competitively tough consistently. You know, and we have not done that yet. We haven't. And I'm not even talking about wins and losses, although it's ironic that correlates, you know, win, loss, win. I mean, you know, it just happens to be analogous, you know. But at the end of the day, for me, as I'm watching it, I think we can give more. I do. Now, you know, guy plays 38 or 39, or, you know, he looks at me and looks like he wants a blow, and I look down at the ground and act like I didn't see him. I mean, you know, does that factor into it? I mean, I don't want any. That's what I'm telling those guys. I don't want any excuses. You know, I've seen guys play 40 minutes before. You know, it's why we do conditioning. You know, tough it out, figure it out, get through the media. You know, figure it out. You know, so we've got to figure that part out. How to be competitively tough, consistently, game in and game out, and for larger percentages of games. You know, and that's we've got to get that done if we expect to reach our potential. You know, I think that's what's got to happen.
That being said, knowing that you're going to get a couple guys back and that there's still potential to get better, does that give you some encouragement?
Oh, sure. You know, I always think of things, you know, optimistically. It's kind of how I'm wired. But I'm excited about where we're going and how we're moving. I do think his point earlier was a good one. I think some other guys, whether it's LeBron Black or even Nunn and Hill and Tate, as Rob mentioned, those guys have taken advantage of more minutes, and they've gotten better. You know, Morgan, I thought, was really good on Saturday. Like, he was really good. So those guys, you know, they've taken advantage of the experience that they've been able to get through all this, and I think, you know, hopefully for us that bodes well for us. You know, that means once we get to the point where we've got everybody back, we have a deeper rotation, and, you know, we're able to do some things maybe that we're not able to do otherwise. But, you know, in the meantime, we have who we have, and we just kind of got to figure it out. And, you know, we're a work in progress right now. Would I like to say that heading into February? I understand why, but at the same time, you know, I like to be, like you were saying earlier, a little bit more certain heading into February, and some of the stuff we can't control.
Newbill's obviously their guy, but what else do you see from Penn State right now?
Well, obviously, 2-game win streak. I love Brandon Taylor. I know he was out last night. I think he poses problems, Jeremy, because he can make threes and he can post and he's big and strong and physical. They've got, whether it's Donovan Jack or Dickerson or Julian Moore, they've got good size up front. Last night, I think they blocked 7 balls. I mean, they're a very good shot blocking team. Teams have not had a great deal of success scoring around the rim on those guys. Obviously, Nubel's terrific. I mean, I know last night he didn't shoot it maybe as well as he had here recently, but he's been on a tear. And even with that, I think he was he a double-double last night? And had at least 5+ assists. So he put his footprint on the game, you know, and he always does. Shep Garner scares you because he's that guy, you can tell he thinks every shot's going in. And he has an ability to get it up on the rim. And he's very aggressive. You know, so, you know, he scares you a little bit with his playmaking ability for sure. And then last night they had got perimeters come off the bench and make threes, you know, that I thought were huge for them in Brandon Taylor's absence. You know, so those are that, and you watch them and how many close games they've been in, Jeremy. That's the other thing I think. You look, I mean, like, it's the same thing I said going into Minnesota. You know, I felt like Minnesota may have been the best 1-6 team I'd ever seen on film, and then I looked at their statistics and saw where they were ranked nationally, defense and offense. It's just a break or two. I think they're a good basketball team. They've got older guys, Hollins, those guys. I thought those guys were good. You know, Penn State has been in the thick of these games in close situations numerous times here in their 8 games. You know, it could be, you know, you flip 1 or 2 of those games, all of a sudden you're 500 or. You know, and I think, you know, that you could say the same for all of us. As Jim was saying earlier, there's been a lot of teams in the league that have gone through that each one of us could probably point to a game and say, man, we were right there. You know, but that's kind of part of it. So, but I always respect the way they play. I think Pat has them competing. I remember my first year they came in here, and they were so tough and played so hard. I just, you know, and ever since we played them, it's been that way. I think they're physical. I think they're tough. I think they compete, and we're going to have to answer that challenge for 40 minutes. Whenever you play them, they're very physical, they're very tough, they compete, they play very hard.
Is Kendrick excited to see DJ Newbill?
I haven't talked to him about that.
Can you expand a little bit on Maverick's improvement?
Sure, I thought the other day, you know, he was, obviously he finished, so people will see that on the stat sheet, but I thought he was physical, thought he screened well, thought he played post defense well, you know, thought he ran the floor well, thought he was a little bit more explosive the other day, a little bit more aggressive, which I thought was good. I thought he did some really good things. You know, he's getting better. He really has grown by leaps and bounds this season. You know, and I appreciate him playing through and never have an excuse. You see his hand wrapped up. You know, anytime you have a hand wrapped up in basketball, I mean, you know, that's inhibited him a little bit throughout the year. He has not used it as an excuse at all and has just played through it. So, you know, I was really pleased with the way he played on Saturday. I thought he and Tate were really 2 bright spots on Saturday.
Coach, what types of adjustments have you seen from Mike since he started playing a few minutes lately?
Mike Latula?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Mike's a guy that always prepares. He's always up watching film, you know, of the opponent, watching film of practice, very physical in practice. To be honest with you, I haven't seen much of a change. That's just kind of who Mike is. You know, Mike's a competitive kid. Mike takes a lot of pride in preparing and knowing what we're supposed to be doing as a team and, you know, what that entails in his role. And so I haven't noticed much of a change, to be honest.
Did you talk to him after the Minnesota game about that, you know, where he didn't take the open opportunity?
Yeah, sure. We saw it on the film. I mean, I thought he should have taken a 3. He gambled there late in the game and shot a gap, and they got a wide open 3 at the buzzer that they missed. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I thought I could get it." So so we had, you know, a couple of those plays that we talked to him about for sure. They're late in the first half. Anything on the phone lines?
Not here. Anything else in the room? We'll let him go. How's Ryan doing? Schmidt.
Ryan's doing great. Obviously, I appreciate him taking me up on my offer to do it. It's helped us with depth in practice, and obviously, you know, gives us another body for the games. Ryan's a great kid. I've said that over and over, and he's smart. You know, business finance guy with the ridiculous GPA, and I told him, I said, someday I'll probably be working for you. Anybody else? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.